I'm neither man nor beast. I'm Dexter.
Dexter Morgan, the fictional character on the popular Showtime series Dexter, is a forensic blood splatter analyst for Miami Metro. Dexter has a girlfriend, a good relationship with his foster sister, and he likes to kill murderers. Dexter had a traumatic childhood and came to live with a foster family and was eventually adopted by them. Those who watch the 8 seasons know that Dexter is a sociopath with supposedly no feelings or conscience. He refers to his murderous impulse as his dark passenger.
The primary aim of ethics is to determine how one ought to live and when actions are ought to do in the conduct of one's life. This quote was said by John Dean. But Dexter's adopted father, a police officer named Henry, began teaching Dexter a code in his adolescent years, the Code of Harry. Constructs an ethical model that guides Dexter through a life that gives in to the dark passenger when the results are best for overall society. His foster father, Harry, taught Dexter how to kill without being caught, and taught him the rules for killing. Harry told him that killing must serve a purpose and taught him to only kill other murderers.
Dexter's actions can be described by a type of normative ethics called consequentialism, or the teleological theory, meaning that his actions are regarded as moral and immoral depending on whether they help or hinder in the achievement of the chosen. Dexter's ethics are strict. The strict practice of doing ethics uses a deductive approach based on the code of morality under the assumption that the truth of the code leads to a positive outcome. The morality or immorality of an act is the function solely of the consequences of the act and the tendency of those consequences to produce pleasure or pain, goodness or evil, in some degree and in some way. This quote describes the teleological theory.
Dexter has a preference for killing people. He works with his restraints, such as the law, to maximize his utility and not get caught. Because Dexter is maximizing his utility, he is acting right in the world. Utilitarianism is another way to view ethics. This theory says that something is right if that action provides the greatest amount of happiness for the greatest number of people. Dexter kills murderers. By doing this action, it results in increasing in pleasure for him. However, Dexter's victims experience pain and suffering. Whose happiness or suffering is greater? Whose pain and pleasure? Dexter's actions also affect his victim's family and friends. Losing someone will always cause suffering. Now add their suffering into the equation. What about people who were harmed by the victims and their pleasure that he is now dead? More people benefited from the killing of the serial killer. Dexter's pleasure and the people in the rest of the world's pleasure is higher than the pain and the suffering of the victim's family and friends. So according to this theory, Dexter is morally right to kill the murderers. Life is meaningful through its existence. Life is what you make it. This philosophical movement is called existentialism. This idea is centered on the analysis of individual existence in a deep universe and the plight of the individual who must assume the ultimate responsibility for acts of free will without any certain knowledge of what is right or wrong or good and bad.
Harry recognized there was an obsessive need to kill in Dexter, who was killing animals and filled with rage even as a boy, and he channeled that need by teaching him to kill wicked serial killers in ways the law couldn't touch. Taught him the Code of Harry, which involved lots of verification and standards. Also taught him forensics and how to not get caught. But he has a strong compulsion to kill. It makes him feel, and if he doesn't, it builds up. He really needs and wants to kill. The need to kill probably arose from a childhood trauma, which is eventually revealed in the series. The reason Dexter feels a need to kill is because of what he calls his dark passenger. According to the show, a DP, or dark passenger, is some need in a person that can only be satisfied by killing. In many ways, it's like an addiction, and the show, in fact, makes this connection during the 2nd season. And it cannot be ignored. There is no rehab or recovery because eventually the DP's need to kill
Dexter was an ethical and moral serial killer because he followed the truth of Harry's code, taught to him before the death of his adopted father. The code made his actions ethical and gave his life purpose.
Dexter is also an example of an Übermensch. The Übermensch is an idea proposed by Friedrich Nietzsche. An Übermensch is the lone wolf who acts out of the abundance of life, passion, and will. They believe that the purpose of life is to be the best you can for yourself. Dexter's morals and behaviors go along with this idea.
Philosophy helps us understand the darkest urges in the human mind and connects the ancient and modern philosophers in pop culture.